And hello YouTube, this is GS Man I'm Smart, and I'm today on a brand new video for tutorials with GS. Today's tutorial we're taking a look at an Adobe After Effects tutorial and showing you how to create a basic animation, well, it's not too basic, but it's basic enough, a shatter effect. Now you can use this on text, you can use this on images, different layers, objects, but we're going to be using it for text because I know a lot of people do want to create these title effects that really, look really cool, and shattering text is always good. It's something I've always really liked. So let me show you what I've created, and we're basically going to be trying to create something like this or recreate it so I can teach you guys. Let's take a look at this. So there's that. So basically what we have here, if we just make this a little bigger, if we scrub through this, we have a snow background, which you can easily find just on Google, and we have some snow falling, just a stock video, very easy to find as well. And then we have a text emerge from the top, 3D text layer come down, camera comes down, and it lands on the ice. And then what happens is that it basically turns into pieces, and it starts falling down. And we have sound effects in the background as well, which very easily found online as well. So as you see, I used my name, my channel name, well, my main channel's name, GS Man I'm Smart. So that's what we're gonna be teaching you how to do today. It's not too difficult, and like I said, this is a basic tutorial. There are several different things you can do to this. You can add layer masks, you can add optical flares, you can make the text break off into different directions. You could do like really cool layer effects where multiple layers of the text are slowly, falling down from top to bottom or from bottom to top. There's a lot of cool things you can do with this, but I don't want to go too advanced into it because the video will end up being very long. So I'm going to do the basic tutorial today, and then we're going to go a little deeper and show you how to do some advanced things in later tutorials. And we're basically going to be using this project as a template to basically edit it for later on in other tutorials, so we don't need to teach the entire thing over again because it can be a little lengthy. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and start a new composition. Go up to composition, new composition, and we're going to use 1920 by 1080. That's what I like to use. You could use whatever you'd like. And I already have some of my files imported here on the left side, but that won't really make a difference. But let me actually show you the composition here. Where is it at? If we go into here. Here it is. As you see, I have two audio files here. And then I have the image in the background. I have the main comp here. And then I have the snow on top of that. And if we head into this, you'll see it's not very difficult, really. If we head into the composition with the effect, I'm only using really 4 layers. So it won't really take too long. I think it's a great tutorial for beginners. So if we go into our new composition, which is right here, the first thing we're going to do is create some text, and you can easily do that with the tool up here, the horizontal type tool. Go ahead and click that, and click somewhere on the composition, and let's type. We want to make sure that we're not using black. You can change the color on the right side here. Let's use a white just so that we can see our text. There we go. And we're just gonna type in YouTube. That tends to be what I like to use for my tutorials. When you're doing this, you wanna pick a font that's very thick and very noticeable. You don't want to pick something too thin because the effect may not look that well. I've always used this effect with thicker fonts, and we're actually gonna see if we can use another font. Because when I did this earlier, I didn't really like how the letters were sort of unnoticeable with the texture that I used here. We're gonna use this one. It's a little more profound. All right, so we're gonna use this text font right here, and we're gonna center it sort of. And the next thing we're gonna go ahead and do is we're gonna add in our texture, and we're gonna be using an ice texture. You can use whatever texture you want. If you want to use a texture, you don't need to use a texture. I'm gonna be using one though. If you're not gonna use a texture, you can just skip over this part right here. But I'm gonna be using, which texture do I want to use here? This texture right here. We're just gonna drag it in here. And what you'll see now is that we have the image behind the text. What we want to do is make sure that we can change the style of this layer into alpha matte. And how you can do that is by clicking at the bottom here, the toggle button right there. And if you have these buttons right here, this menu right here, you want to click the bottom button here and you'll get this menu. That's how you change from different modes. What you want to do is click right here in this box and change it to alpha matte. And what this will do, it'll basically take the image in the background and place it onto whatever is on the foreground, which is our text. Now you'll see we have this so far. What you can also do is you can resize the image so you can get some more variability in your texture, because right now we only have basically one piece of we have one section of this big image here. You can go ahead and click on the sides here, click on these little buttons, and hold down Shift so that the image proportions stay the same. And then you can scale it down to however you'd like, and you'll see that you get more of the image, and it looks a lot more natural to texture. Rather than just getting a small part of the image, you're getting most of the image in width-wise. So here we have our text with the texture on it as well. Now, if you notice that it's a little too bright, or if you want to add some more brightness to it or add some more contrast to it, we can go up to Effect, then go down to Color Correction, and we can use a Curves effect. And we can just sort of, move these around a bit, how we want to have more darkness or more brightness, more contrast or not. I think that right there looks pretty good. Alright, the next thing we want to do is we're going to go ahead and grab our text and we're going to duplicate this. You can press Control D to duplicate. And we're going to turn this text layer on with a little eyeball here. And your text should now look white. And this time we want to turn this black. So select the top layer of the text here and then go back to your color picker tool, select black, and your text will turn black. You can zoom a bit. You should have for some of you, sometimes you'll have an outline, sometimes you won't. That's not really important right now. As long as your text is black, you should be okay. After that, we're going to go to our effects panel, and you want to use an effect called Bevelle Alpha, I believe it's called, right here. And just drag this onto your text here. And then on the effects panel on the left side here, we want to change the angle of the light to 0, and we want to make it come from the top. That looks fine. And change this to 0. And if you'd like to zoom in here, you can actually do that. It'll make it a little more helpful. And for the light intensity, we're going to move that up a little bit. As you'll see, as we move the light intensity up, the light coming from the top, you'll see at the top of the text, it gets a lot more intense. So it honestly depends how you want it to look. A lot of these options here, they're not definite and not set in stone. I know a lot of people tend to get intimidated by all the options here, but freely play around with any of these. You can't really mess up. If you don't like what turned out, then you can always click the reset button at the top here. But all these options are here for you to play around with and see what you like. So for light intensity, we're gonna have it right around there. That looks good. And then we're gonna set our layer mode to add. And our layer mode can be found down here on this box. Set it to add. And you'll see now that we have the Bevelle Alpha effect on the original text. After that, we're going to duplicate this layer, the one on top, first one, Control D again. And this time we want to change the effect settings. Go ahead and move the camera a bit down so we can see it better. And this time we want the light to come from the bottom, like so. And we're going to turn the intensity down a bit and the thickness up a bit. So right around there. And you'll see that we sort of have some counter shading here. the top, we have some, and at the bottom we have some with the Bevelle Alpha effect. So after that, you pretty much have the text complete. Like I said, this is very much up to you of what you want to do. You could easily just skip this entire process and go straight to the shattering effect. However, you want to make it look good, then you do want to add some textures. You do want to add some of these effects to make your text look a little more interesting rather than just having a bland piece of texture. Besides, if you're new to After Effects, then hopefully this is helpful to you, because now you know how to add a texture. Now you know how to add you know, glossy effects like this. So, and how to use the color correction tool as well. So after that, we're just gonna go highlight all these layers, and then we're gonna go up to layer, and we're gonna click pre-compose. And you can name this just text. And what will happen now is that we actually have a brand new composition without any of the layers. If you want to access your layers again, you can easily just double click this right here, and it'll bring you to the composition where your layers are at. And you'll also be able to access the composition at the top here. When you create a new composition, all your compositions are at the top bar here. So we're going to be working with the pre-comp that we just made, which is this one right here. And the next thing you want to do is where the shattering comes into play. Now we're going to be using another effect. Go into your effects panel right here on the right side and type in pixel poly. Typing in pix should work. CC pixel poly right here. And just go ahead and drag that. Oops, drag that onto your text layer here. And what will happen is you should see something like this. Now, if you don't see this, it's because you have either your playhead all the way at the beginning, so you're not seeing the effect, or you have it all the way at the end, which means that the effect is gone. Try to scrub through it first and see if you can find a good spot that you can manipulate some of the variables. Also, if your composition is far too long, if it's like past 4 or 5 minutes, or if it's anything past 30 seconds, I think this effect will sort of seem kind of weird. Try to make your composition short just for the text effect, because we don't want to have a very long composition. It tends to make editing sort of such a hassle and can run into problems. So make sure that if you're not seeing this right now, because I have run into the problem before, that you're working on a short composition and that your playhead is in the middle of the effect rather than at the beginning or at the end. So once you've found a good spot where you can see the effect very well, like right around here, we can manipulate some of the variables on the left side here, which are all the effect tools. Now, once again, here you can mess around with a lot of these. It's really up to you how you want to manipulate these variables. I'm going to be showing you what most of them do, and then you can make your choice, and I'm going to be showing you what settings I've used. So the first thing we're going to go over is gravity right here. And gravity is basically going to define where you want your text to fall. You can either, when it shatters, you can make it fall down, which means it will be a positive number. But if you make it a negative number, it'll actually fall upwards and it'll float up into the air. For example, you make it negative like so, you'll see that it floats upwards like so. However, if we move gravity downwards, well, if we move the gravity to a positive number, you'll see that the shadows will fall down. So this is kind of cool because you can decide how you want to create the effect, whether you want the shatters to flow up or if you want them to fall down. We're going to be using falling down for this tutorial, but again, it's up to your decision. So for us, we're probably going to use a gravity of right around here. Looks fine to me. If we play through this real quick, we'll see how it goes. Yeah, that's fine right there. And then the next effect we're going to be working with is force. Now, force tends to be how spread apart. For example, if we scrub a little forward here and we change the force value here, you'll see force is how much of an impact the shatter has. If you have a very small force, the shatters won't really disperse that much across the screen. But if you have a large force, they'll basically go everywhere. So once again, up to your preference. We want one that's kind of in the middle. You can make some really cool effects with this though. You could just have your text fall straight down like that. It looks pretty cool too. We're gonna have a bit of a bigger force right around there, I think. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, it looks good right there. And the last two settings I want to go over is direction randomness and speed randomness. And there's actually one more, grid spacing. But direction randomness and speed randomness is how variability once again you want to have in your shatter. If we move both of these options up and down, you'll see that all these shatter pieces get moved around. And I like to move them a little high, a little higher in the number value, because the lower you have them, the less interesting it kind of looks. And I like to make all of my effects look kind of interesting. For example, if we compare the values with just the smallest amount, you see that the text really just it explodes and then it goes towards the right and the left. However, if we put this to maximum, and we let this preview, and we scrub through it, you see we have a much more explosive effect where it goes everywhere. Maybe this is a bit too extreme, but you get the idea. The higher these values are, the more explosive your shatter will basically be. So pick a value that you like. We're gonna be using something around the 40 value, I think. Let's see how that looks. Something around the 40 value. You know, it's just for tutorial purposes, but that looks fine to me. And then for the spin amount, we're gonna change this to 2. Now the last effect I want to go over is grid spacing here. And grid spacing is really interesting and neat, because you see how we have a bunch of small little spaces here. All the text is basically destroyed into different polygons, and if we turn the grid spacing all the way up, we get less number of polygons. There's a lot less pieces than we would if we have it set at a lower value. So the higher that you have this grid spacing, the less pieces you'll have the text explode into. This could be a really cool idea depending on what type of effect you're trying to create. If you're trying to create sort of a sandy effect, you can even bring it all the way down to the bare minimum and you get this cool, I mean, just look at it, the rendering is even slowly lagging a bit because there's so many pieces. I mean, just look at it, looks really cool. Look at that. That looks really awesome right there. And you could create like a little sand effect there. It looks really neat. But we don't want to have this many little pieces. I think around a value of 15 would do. Between 14 to 17 maybe. Maybe we'll go to 16, 17 perhaps. Right around there. That looks fine to me. So once we have that, you want to make it look a lot more realistic and you want to add some more variability to it and randomness to it. What you can do is you can actually just duplicate this effect by pressing Control D. Make sure that you don't click the layer, just work in your effects panel here and press Control D and you'll automatically duplicate the effect. And here you can change some of the values even more. Perhaps we can make the speed here a little higher and this a little higher, and perhaps we can, the force we can lower it a bit, and the gravity we can lower a bit, and you'll see that we have a lot more variability there. That may be a little too extreme, that we have far too many pieces, but once again, it's up to you. I don't really like to double up on effects, but if you're looking for something like that, if you want to make it, you know, more profound, you can double up on the effects and make it a lot more interesting. So that's pretty much for the effect right there. Now all we have to do is add a few little touch-ups. You can also do is add a glow to this, and that's very easy to do as well. Go ahead and center this a bit so we can take a look at it. And to add a glow, all you'd have to do is go up to Layer, New, and go to Adjustment Layer. And here we want to go up to Effect, Stylize, and then Glow. And as you see right now, it's a really bright glow. But we're gonna go ahead and fix that in a second. First of all, we want the glow to be vertical. We'll go ahead and change that. And then instead of having these pre-made colors for us, we want to use our A and B colors. So we go over here. Instead of original colors, we're gonna click A and B colors. And then down here you can sort of pick what colors you want. You sort of want to have the same type of color that your texture is. So we're gonna get a darkish blue, maybe a little darker, like right around there. And then we're gonna get sort of a lightish blue, like that. And then we're gonna go ahead and bring the radius down. And then bring the intensity up a bit. And once again, you know, all these settings here you can play around with. If you want to use a different intensity or different radius, depends on what you think looks good. And next we're going to go ahead and duplicate this effect, so Control D. And this time instead we're going to use, we're going to change the radius and the intensity opposite. Before we increased the intensity and lowered the radius, now we're going to increase the radius and lower the intensity. And instead of vertical, we're going to have horizontal. And you see we sort of get a nice little glow around it. If you don't like this sort of glow, you can, like I said, you don't need to double up on this effect. You can just have it set to vertical or just use one of the effects. And then from there on, we can go ahead and just highlight all this again. Go up to Layer. Go to Pre-Compose. And here we have the near to finished product. Now all we need to do is, if you'd like to make this a little more 3D looking, you can go ahead and duplicate this comp. And then you could scale it down. Just scale it down a little bit. Let's grab the ends here, hold down Shift. And make sure that the scaled down version is behind. Like so. And then we're gonna go to Effects, Color Correction again, Curves, and just make this slightly visible, like so perhaps, that it looks a little more 3D. If we look at the Y here, it looks pretty neat. But once again, you could move the curves a little bit around to your best liking. We're just gonna keep it like that. And from there on, all we'd really have to do is add our background. Okay, so here's our snow background. We're gonna add to the bottom here. And hold Shift, scale it up. And then we can add our stock video, which is right here. Put that on top and scale that up. And set this layer mode to add. I mean screen, not add. You could do add though. I think add or screen would work. Screen would actually look better. So we're going to set it to screen, and then if we play this, we'll see we have, make it a little bigger. We have that. Now it looks a little strange because we have the second layer in the background, but if you were to make this a little lighter, or if you don't want to have this second text layer in the background, you can easily just delete this one. With some fonts it looks really good, with other fonts it doesn't look that well. With this font it doesn't look that well. As you see, it just explodes there. Now, if you wanted to make it come from the sky and make it fall down, other than just adding the sound effects, which you can just drag and drop into here, if you want to make it come from the top and basically fly down into the snow, all you have to do is turn this into a 3D layer. Click the toggle button at the bottom here. Make sure you click 3D layer right here, and then you would just have to animate. You would just have to. Oh wait, we don't want to turn this into a 3D layer. We want to turn our comp into 3D layer right here. Turn this into a 3D layer. Grab your Z axis, and then you would just animate this. I have a video tutorial on animation, so I'm not gonna go over all this right now. We'll make the video pretty long. It's already pretty long, I think. So animation is pretty easy. I have a video tutorial on that if you want to take a look at that. There's a annotation and a card on the screen right now. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. That's it for this tutorial. You know, it's very basic. There's nothing too complicated. But hopefully you learned something. Perhaps you can use this in some of your YouTube intros if you're making YouTube videos or some of your other projects. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the comments section below. If you have any suggestions or feedback, we're all here to learn. So go ahead and do that in the comments as well. I'll try my best to give feedback and reply to comments if you have any. Always for this video, we have plenty more After Effects tutorial coming in the future. Subscribe if you haven't. I'll see you guys next time.
Thank you for watching, and I hope this video helped you out in any way. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. It'll really help me out. If you didn't like it, you can leave a comment as well, giving some feedback. If you have any other comments or questions, please leave them in the comments as well, and I'll do my best to answer them. I usually respond to comments within 24 to 48 hours, depending on your question and depending on how busy I am. I have plenty of other content on my channel about different software tutorials and how-to videos, so if you're interested in that type of stuff, check it out. And if you like what you're seeing, you can subscribe too. Really appreciate it. You can also check out my other channels and social media as shown on the screen right now. And with that, thank you so much, everyone. And this is GS Man Smart, and I'll be back sooner than you think. Don't go anywhere.